How to warm up for plyometrics. I think warm up is really important here because especially if you're not super familiar with the movements, or even if you are, we're putting in more force than our body weight, so it's important that everything feels good, everything feels warm before going too heavy. So I'm actually going to start with arm swings. It seems okay, we're jumping, why do we need our arms? Arms are going to be super important, especially, we're not going to get into the acrobatic techniques, but the arm swing and coordination with the legs is really important for a lot of reasons. It will actually help to get more height. When we transfer momentum, the arms are going to be important because you can make them work with you or against you. And mainly we're going to stick to dynamic flexibility, right? We're not going to do too many, heavy passive movements because we want to keep everything light, everything moving. We want to have that rubber band stretch reflex of the body. So just swinging the arms to horizontal, switching sides. We're not switching sides. One arm forwards, one arm back. We're going to go all the way back, all the way up. Now this is loose arms, right? So the point here is also to try to take tension out of the arms. So you don't want to be holding tension. You want to be relaxed. In between arm swings, I'll just do these, shaking out. It is really important in the general plyometric sense, which is why I'll talk about strength training and how it can help, but also it can hinder, because the point is not to create maximal tension. The point is to go from relaxation to a high level of tension in a very short time. So it's more about the timing and the speed than it is. So I'm just going to do some throwing movements, right? I'm just throwing the invisible ball. Again, it's just good to keep the arms loose, keep them relaxed, both sides for coordination. But yeah, very important not to hold too much tension. In all of these exercises, the tension is going to happen in very specific moments, but you can't really generate power if you're tense all the time. And this is one big issue that I see in adults, is they carry too much tension through their upper body when they try to do the exercises, and it actually hinders them. So a bit more arms movement. We're going to do some rock skipping. Right? The point of all of this, again, is just to relax the arms so that later when we use the arm coordination with the jump, we're not carrying unnecessary tension that's holding us back. We're going to go fast arm circles backwards and forwards. When I do this one, I think like a centrifuge. So I'm trying to spin the blood in my arm towards my hand, other arm, swing, as big of range of motion as you can. Side to side swings, loose arms, up and down, one arm forwards, one arm back, elbow. This is not as dynamic, but I'm lifting the elbow backwards. I feel this is a good shoulder warm up. Again, shaking out in between. This is another good one too, the figure eight, the infinity. So backwards arm circles with both arms at the same time, drawing the infinity sign. And go forwards. The rest of the body loose. So if you want to rotate your spine, if you want to let your hips move, let it, because we're trying not to isolate the body here. We're trying to let it move in series, in sequence, connecting everything. So arms should feel a little bit more loose now, then we'll go into the legs. So next, going into the lower body warm-up. So first thing I'll do is the hips, pushing the hips forward, pushing the hips back. Knees are not locked, but a little bit straight, so I'm just focusing on the hips, the hip extension. It's going to be very important. So this is just kind of like stretching it out, a little bit loose, a little bit relaxed. Do the hip circles, classic old man in the park training move, but it's an amazing movement for the hips, just for the whole body in general. So definitely hip. Again, we don't want a lot of tension, so in between rounds I'm gonna swing and kick my legs around a little bit just to shake out the tension. So just kicks. I'm not going hard with these kicks. This is just to get the legs loose. So it doesn't matter how high I'm going. It doesn't matter if the knee is completely locked or not. It does matter that I keep my chest up so I don't accidentally knee myself in the face. Kicking back. So when we do unilateral work, when we do one leg jumps, the coordination of the kicking leg or the free leg and the jumping leg is going to be important. So that's one of the reasons why I do these leg swings, but also just to take out some of the tension in the upper body. And I'm not trying to kick as high as I can. I'm just swinging the legs around. Next is the knees. Knees for me are very important. I've had a lot of knee injuries. Some of them just, chance. Some of them from stupid decisions. So some of them from having loose joints as well. So the knee circles for me, classic, and it's very important. I will do knee circles a lot. I'll do it before almost every training session where I'm using my legs. Sometimes throughout the day, I'll do them. You may not have to put as much emphasis into the knees as I do because, again, there's psychological and physical components because I've had a number of knee injuries. So that's something that I want to make sure that I take care of and don't skimp on. I'm just bending, moving the knees a little bit side to side. I can go legs out, knees in, knees out. Circles, different kind of circles. Just playing with different movements. So if the knee is completely over the foot and tracking, that's fantastic. In the real world, it may not happen like that. So you just want to make sure you train these muscles in the leg around the knee to make sure that they experience what it's like to not be tracking 100% over the foot. And that way you're going to build a bit more resilience to potential bad landings. Or sometimes, if you're doing moves that involve twisting, that involve rotation, in case you land short, in case you over twist or under twist, I can do a little bit of walking with bent knees like this, right? Just to get a little bit more blood flow, a little bit more circle. I don't want to go too heavy because it is a warm-up. So I might do the sissy squats, but I'm not going to go all the way down. I'm just going to get my knees to go forward. The reason is that I'm not trying to do a strength training session right now. I'm trying to warm up for jumping. So these are pretty tiring if you go all the way down on the quads, and we don't really want that right now. I can do a little bit of extension stretching, just bend and straighten, lean a little bit into the knee. Generally, we don't want the knees locked for anything that we're going to do. So part of it is just experience to make sure that we don't go there, but just different kind of stretch, different kind of warm up. Shaking the legs out. Toes and ankles, also very important. That's going to be our first and last contact with the ground. So how we specifically use our feet is going to be super, super important, especially when we come to the landings, because that's the first impact. So what you do with your feet is going to dictate how the rest of the landing goes, how much force goes through your body, how you can dissipate it, how smooth you can be. So I'll do a few different movements for the feet. So first thing, I'm just going to walk on my toes. I can go for distance. If I don't have a lot of space, I can just do this in place. And I'm going to do this two different ways. The first one is I'm going to try to put more of the weight on the big toe side. So I'm going to push in and try to walk almost exclusively on the big toe. And I can also do this trying to lift as high as I can through the ankles, or I can do it keeping the heel off the ground, but a little bit low. So both of those are going to train the calves and ankles in different ways, going to help with the landing. Next we're going to do same idea, but on the outside of the foot. So on right here, whatever this is called, that pinky toe side of the foot. So same thing, I'm just walking around. I might internally rotate my hips a little bit for this one. Go careful, go slow. If you're not used to doing these movements, always, go a lot slower than me. But same idea. I'm lifting up, but this time my foot is tilted a little bit this way. So it's just a different, it's gonna work the ankles in different ways. And same thing, I can do it up really high, or I can do it low. And then the next thing I'm gonna do, so I'm gonna walk, but exaggerating the slow roll. So when I walk, again, it can be forwards, backwards, in place. I'm gonna start by contacting the toes and then rolling through the foot. So it's like every time I take a step, it's like a negative one leg calf raise. This is like sneak walking. So when you do this, you should be very silent, really being conscious of not making any sound. This is really important to try to apply the same thing in our landings. So as I mentioned, what you do with the feet is going to be super important. And if you can't do it slow, you're rolling through and absorbing, you're 100% not going to be able to do it fast. So just getting used to rolling from the toes to the ball of the feet to the heel. And really, if you have a noisy floor or a completely hard floor, this is a good one to practice, to sneak, to walk silently, because that's going to have a huge, huge carryover with the landings that we're going to do. So next, just a couple of preventative exercises. So we're going to go onto the outside blade of the foot. And same thing, just walk around a little bit. You can walk in place. You can walk forwards, backwards, in a circle. Try to maximally, I think this is called ankle inversion. So maximally invert, supinate the ankle, and try to stay on that outside blade of the foot. Again, go slow. So the speed that I go at is because I've been doing this for a long time. So if you're completely new to these movements, go much slower than me. This is kind of like preventing disease by taking poison. So we never really want to land in this position, but we do want to build some strength, some resistance, some exposure to it, so that if we do, for whatever reason, land in that position, it's not going to cause injury. It's not going to roll the ankle. You're not going to go into the ankle sprain. So it's pretty important. And we're going to go on the inside blade of the foot. So we're going to evert the ankle, try to flatten the foot as far as you can. Big toe on the floor, pinky toe lifted. You may want to put your knees together as well. It's going to make it easier to find that movement. So it's going to engage the peroneals, all this stuff on the outside of the calf. Also very important. So we do want to go through, because in the landing position, we're going to go through the forwards and backwards movement, but there is also going to be an element of big toe to pinky toe. So we want to make sure that we train the ankle in a 3D manner. So same thing, I'm just walking around like that. Might do it for, 30 seconds, a minute, just to feel some good activation. And this is with the whole foot, right? So before we were doing it on the toes, now we're doing with the whole foot down on the floor, walking around. We're going to do the same thing walking on the heels. So again, it's just going to activate a little bit of the, what do you call that, tibialis anterior. So walking around, you kind of have to do this with straight legs. So be careful how you take a step. Lifting. Yeah, the feet, I take a long time warming up the knees and the ankles specifically, because they're super important, and especially for adults, these are areas that can be a little bit stiff and not used to developing this kind of elasticity that we need to successfully jump and land for a long time. So very important to build that, walking around on the heels. Then a little bit of toe exercises, toe control, not 100% necessary, but useful. So lifting all of the toes and then gripping the floor, lifting and gripping. You can play with coordination of the big toe and the four toes. You can play with walking like that as well. So you can get also different kind of ankle activation by walking with the whole foot, but keeping the toes lifted. Pretty interesting. Another conditioning exercise I like to add. Again, just play with it. I call this the caterpillar walk. So you're gonna lift the toes, you're gonna reach, grab with the toes, and then pull forward. So you're walking forward very slowly. Like a caterpillar. It's a good move to do for punishment. Not necessary for the jumping stuff we're gonna do, but the more control and the more movement you have in the feet and the more resistance you have, the better it's gonna be. So again, it's one of those things, it's better to have more strength and more resistance and more range of motion than you need. Just in case something happens. So one more thing we're gonna do for ankle warm up, just one like balance. So start with a flat foot. If you want to make it more challenging, you can close your eyes. And then what's going to happen is the ankle's going to do a lot of these side-to-side motions, but the motion's going to be a bit chaotic because it's in response to falling. So just really nice to get the blood flow to the ankle, really nice for warm-up, rehab type exercise. If you do it on a softer floor, it's actually more difficult. You're going to get more of that movement. So it's a really good one to do, like especially if you're coming off an ankle injury. You know, do a couple minutes of this each side. And you don't have to do all of this thorough warm-up just to get ready for jumping. I'm just showing you the possibilities of being thorough, right? Ultimately, you know your body better than I do, so you know what you need. And it's the same with me. Some days if I feel stiff, I'm going to take a longer warm-up to make sure I'm prepared. Some days if I feel good, I'm good to go. I do a couple quick movements and I'm in the training. So it's one of those things that's up to you. That's the decision that you make. But normally, if you're an adult and you're not used to this kind of training, it's always better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. So one more challenge around here. This one's good to do with eyes closed. You clap and then switch legs, and you find your balance. Bah. Right, so good for coordination. You don't have to do it eyes closed. It's just harder with eyes closed. Good for developing your connection of the foot to the floor. You can try the same thing up on your toes. I'm not going to tell you how to do this. If you take ballet, if you take a dance class, you'll be very specific with your lift and with your alignment. I'm not going to tell you that now. I'm just going to say no heels on the floor, and then try to find your balance. Eyes closed is quite difficult for this one. If you want to try, you can do we didn't do calf raises. They're not that necessary, but they're helpful. So calf raises as well. Get some blood to the ankle. If you're going to do calf raises, try to do 3 different foot positions. So we have the feet facing forward, parallel. We have the feet facing out. And then we have the feet facing in. It's going to hit different parts of the calf muscle, so it's just to get a kind of a full spectrum. And when I do these, I like to also rock back on the heel and lift the foot up, so I get that tibialis anterior activation as well. So ankles should feel nice and warm now.